Welcome to the Celebration of You. I'm your host, Holly Dowling. I'm thrilled to share with you incredible people from all over the world who are living and leading extraordinary lives. From overcoming immense adversity to discovering the secret sauce to leading with courage and grace. Their stories are going to bring you hope and inspiration. Now let the stories begin. If you could have only heard the voice that was just singing right before I pushed record, it would give you an indication of the joy that this amazing woman in my life brings to the world. And I mean joy. Every moment I have gotten to spend with her, on the phone with her, when we're Skyping, when we're talking, such a place of joy. And when you think about what you're about to hear is a story of someone that has continued to, epitomizes to me what the word resilience is all about. So world, may I introduce you to one of my dearest friends and colleagues, Eileen Coskey Fracchia. Hi, darling.
Hi.
Hi. Are you singing? Did you mute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you. I just was hoping you'd do a little more singing just for the listeners to start their day.
Good morning. Good morning. Let's start the interview right. Good morning.
Ooh.
Good morning to you.
Oh, I love this. And for the people that are around the world that are listening to this, we know it's evening, but just have a cocktail and pretend it's morning. Oh, Eileen, thank you. Thank you for taking the time and being such a gift in my life and in too many people's lives. But the reason I really wanted you on, I'd love for you to tell everybody, you have a company and it's called the El Camino Group. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now, and then we'll take you on the journey of what got you here.
Well, I am so fortunate to get to do what I do best as often as I can, and more importantly, what I love to do. So I have a small company, and we serve individuals and teams and organizations and enterprise-wide companies in helping them with leadership and business development. And what that looks like is anything from individual coaching or team coaching to helping them with strategic planning and execution, to working with teams in terms of engagement, and having the opportunity to partner and collaborate with a number of different contractors and consultants, all of whom have had just an incredible tapestry of work and life experiences, bringing to the table of a client a great panel of expertise and really of servant leaders and providers.
Ooh, I was just listening to that going, can I sum that up? You know what you are? You're the essence of an architect, because I've watched you. You go in, you help a client figure out what even they need, and then you create the solution and you bring in all the right pieces and people. And it's like you have this eclectic bouquet of all these amazing, talented people you work with.
You know what I always had wanted to be called, only somebody stole it, which was, Brilliance Broker.
Somebody stole that name?
Yes, somebody has it.
I hope they're listening to this and we're going to track them down. But that is you. And I'll brag more about this at the end, but you have a gift at what you do, and it's like no other I've ever seen. But this is kind of what's really cool about this. And I want the listeners, you get to hear somebody that's truly doing what she loves in every aspect of life. And yet this didn't just happen and become her life, for the last 30 years. She's a mother, a wife, but you also had, take us back to, you had a really long career in the corporate world where you were very successful, my friend, before you said, I'm done.
I did. I had the fortune of working for a company for 25 years, Wells Fargo, where I held multiple positions from staff to senior line manager positions to head of geographies and different kinds of groups. Ultimately, I left as the West Coast region development manager, which allowed me to kind of work in areas of customer development, sales development, talent development, leadership development, strategy development, and had just a wonderful opportunity to meet and work with a number of people across geographies, across business units, to really create and to support Wells Fargo's vision and values. which was around serving clients and helping clients to succeed. So it was a wonderful experience. I actually made the decision to retire from Wells Fargo, not from life, not from working, but from Wells Fargo on my 50th birthday. I was sitting in a castle. I am born on St. Patrick's Day, and I decided that I would be in Ireland for my 50th birthday. And it was the year of my 25th birthday anniversary with Wells Fargo. And I sat in a room in a castle, having just been played happy birthday by Patty, the bagpiper, and turned to my husband, Don, who also is with Wells Fargo, has been there now for 37 years, and said to him, I think it's my time to move to, no pun intended, the next stage. Here I go on the coach.
Yeah.
And really to find what's next for me in this life. I want to live healthy and with purpose for a long time and really create a life and live it in a way that I admire, and I want to kind of be that person. So yes, I made the call from the castle on my birthday and said, in the next couple months, I'll be moving on. And just was so thankful for everything that I had been given in that company. I had been married, divorced, married again. I had a beautiful son, and then I was fortunate enough to gain 2 incredible bonus children through my second marriage to Dawn. And just really grew up, Holly, as a person, as a professional, as a woman, in an organization that truly valued allowing people to be whom they really are, and allowing us to do what we do best.
Well, and what's fascinating is, do you realize this whole time, I did not realize till this moment. I knew about the 50th in the castle, and I knew about, I didn't know that the whole moment, though, happened in the castle on your 50th. That's powerful. But you know what you did? You gave yourself permission and gave yourself the gift of saying, it's time and what's next. And one of the things that I love, and I have to go here for a minute, is because you and Dawn have a really powerful, amazing marriage. I mean, to know you as people, but to know you both in the work environment, you really both support each other. Like if every couple out there could really be hidden as a fly in the wall and just see how a really powerful, great marriage works. I love that about you guys. But he's a big proponent and a big supporter of what you've done and of women. But that's a big part of who you are, right?
It really is. I mean, Dawn and I, for many years, were sitting at the same table, married, and sitting at the same leadership table, doing very different things, but sitting at the same table. And I always felt, I could see him as a peer, not just as a spouse and someone who loved him. And it was amazing how much he supported others, women, men, people of different opinion, and really allowed people to, not only allowed it, appreciated difference of opinions. Now, sometimes in our married life, that appreciation is a little bit hard for me to find when we have difference of opinion.
Wait, hold on a second. That looks a little different some days, is what we're saying.
That's right. But still, it is, we created a family unit where, Holly, we are 5 very, very different people who absolutely relish our abilities to work together as a team to challenge one another. We have, we're different in our political views. We're different in our religions. We're different in our favorite baseball teams. He's from the Bay Area. I'm from Southern California. We're different in, so many things. And yet the one thing that we all believe in is that we trump everything else, no pun intended. We trump everything else in terms of we're there for each other, we support one another, we help each other to really kind of live our strength and to be doing what we can do to be the very best, but also to be happy. I mean, happy is a really big value for us.
And it shows. It honestly shows. And just even listening to you talk about the five of you, you all are so beautiful. And it is a very eclectic group of people. And by no means does that mean life has been a bed of roses. Like, what I love about you is it's like resilience at its best. You face adversity, you face stuff, and then you guys keep going, and we just keep moving as all families, but you savor it and you relish it. And I think it just goes to show that you can not have your cake and eat it too. That's not where I'm trying to go. But I do believe it takes everybody playing full out and saying, I'm in this and I'm in it to win it, from a family to a spouse, right? To how we raise our children, to how you show up. Eileen, something interesting though that you just said when you were talking about in the castle on your 50th, and no pun intended when you go the next stage in life. Mm-hmm. And I want to pause for a second and this is where I'm getting the goosies, because one of the gifts that I want the world to know is that in that moment of you making that decision, which was exhilarating, and you've been a big part of, you've put my name in the hat for amazing opportunities. When you believe in somebody, Eileen, you believe in the depth of the bones. And I've loved that about you. And you are the number one cheerleader for the people you love. But what you had no idea, what was around the corner in the next stage of life. Mm-hmm. And that, my friend, you have shown me the epitome of courage and grace and humility, and yet strength like I've never seen anybody handle. So if you're comfortable, because I was with you the night before, we were having dinner at a fabulous little Italian restaurant in Beverly Hills, sitting outside, and you were going in for what was going to be a simple eye doctor appointment the next day. And I was going to be hanging out with you guys and staying at your house the next day.
Yeah. It's been quite the storm, if you will. And I do think, Holly, I'd said this to you a little bit earlier this morning. I said to you, this has sort of been the years of resilience. I've come to sort of find a mantra that has helped me through these last couple of years, and I think helped others as we've sort of huddled around the concept of, the definition of resilience of being the courage to believe in the purpose more than the circumstance. And the idea that in October of 2014, we could be sitting one night brainstorming about some of the great things that you and I were going to do, having met just a couple of years earlier. Yeah. When I think I said I was having problems seeing the stage that was in front of us. We were listening to music. Yeah.
It was blurry, a little blurry.
It was blurry, and I was seeking clarity, and it was blurry. Who would have ever thought that when I walked into that doctor's office, that they would have looked at me and said, oh my gosh, you have a really terrible eye virus, and we're going to hospitalize you for a couple of weeks and really treat this thing. And unfortunately, what I thought originally maybe were floaters, and then maybe an eye virus, it wasn't. There was no virus, and there was no treatment that was going to work. But instead, after a lot of tests and biopsies and trying to find clarity, I was told that through what was really, really bad luck, I had primary intraocular lymphoma, and even worse, that lymphoma carried with it a 98% mortality rate. And the concept that I actually saw this cancer taking over my space, my world, my life. Honestly, we couldn't believe it. I remember having these conversations with you and saying, how could it have been 2 months earlier from this time of diagnosis that I just couldn't see a stage in front of me, that I just thought I had these floaters. And yet, here I was, one of, 300,000 people in the world that gets this terrible lymphoma. And what was amazing, Holly, is that, Dawn and my mom and our children and my sisters and cousins and friends and colleagues immediately, you talk about being an architect, they immediately created a scaffolding of love and support and commitment to find the very best specialists and treatments. I mean, they did what I do. They sort of created the company I have now is so based on how they handled this terrible obstruction of what we thought was going to be the next stage of our lives.
Yeah.
And together we made the decision that, although there was this 98% death rate, that there was a 2% living rate. And I remember sitting with you and having so many great conversations and realizing that it might not sound like a lot, a 2% living rate, but the paradigm shift from thinking about death rate to looking forward to a living rate was a complete deal changer for us. It was a landscape change for us. And it allowed us to search for that doctor, that institution that would also believe that 2% wasn't enough, that we had to find cures for this cancer that would allow not just for 2% chance that I could be part of that 2%, but that we could create a much greater percentage for anyone else who had anything like mine. And, I became patient one of a therapy that, Lord knows I pray will work, will have continued success. But none of us, not one of us, knows what not just next stage is going to be, but what the end of today is going to be or what tomorrow it is. And if anything, it sort of allowed me to understand we can only do the very best we can to give ourselves the very best every moment counts kind of life. Whether it's when we're working professionally or when we're sitting and having a conversation or when we're having dinner, it's putting down our cell phones. It's being present in the moment. It's being at one with our own capabilities, our own competences, our own confidence, our own caring quotient, our own, competence. It is allowing ourselves to take those moments, those breaths, those life instances, those presents, and being able to say, here's how I want to be. Here's how I'm going to show up right now in this moment with gratitude and with hope and with smarts, and to create those next moments. That the stages don't just happen. Things don't just happen. We have to create what's going to happen, and we have to be able to be resilient when circumstance presents itself and gets in the way of our purpose. And my purpose is to live. My purpose is to live healthily and to be of service in this world.
And do you know, my friend, I just listened to you and I can't even believe it's been over 2 years from that moment sitting there to where you are today. And when I said at the beginning, you live from a place of joy, I am so not kidding, because this is who you are. And you know that 2%, the 98% versus 2%. I just want every listener out there, you just heard Eileen, who was faced with, everybody anymore is being touched with cancer by somebody in their family, right? It's whether it's close friends, family, extended, but are you seeing the 2% or are we wallowing and giving up because of the 98%? And Eileen, that is a story and a testimony. And you continue to be here today. And you were the first one. Can you tell us just a little bit about, because I know being there and being just kind of like an extension of your family and Dawn keeping me posted and everybody, but you had to be in a bubble for 2 weeks or a month because you were the first person in the world to do what they did with you. But can you tell us a little bit about this? Because this is huge.
I can. And the place that did it was the Johnson Cancer Center, which I now sit on the board of the foundation, of course.
Of course.
I'm so thankful. In UCLA with the Jules Stein Institute, also at UCLA. And it's so telling. It's such a great story because it really imbues who I am, who I want to be continually. They looked at me, and there was one doctor, a Dr. Sven DeVos, who said to me, we can go for trying to cure your eye cancer, but this lymphoma will come back, and it will come back to your brain. And when it comes back to your brain, that's usually when people try then the additional treatments and treat it as brain cancer, as CNS, central nervous system cancer. And what I'd like to do with you is I'd like to treat you now from the onset for brain cancer. And where I put my foot down in for any kind of radiation, because where my lymphoma would have caused me to have diminished brain capacity had we done radiation. We went for significant chemo, both local injections to the eyes, to intravenous, but we went for cure. Now, that meant using all the cards in the deck. I ultimately had a stem cell rescue, which is a stem cell transplant of my own stem cells. And, at that point, the insurance companies were not for this because it's not worth it for them. They didn't know whether it would work or not. The treatment was, at that point, more dangerous. And most of the time, they would only approve this kind of treatment if it came back and, in fact, was brain cancer. But what was amazing about this particular doctor is he led me down a path that kept saying, look, let's move down. If you don't react well, then we'll stop. We'll pull back. But if you react well, then you can imagine that we may be able to cure you of this particular lymphoma. And what a tale that would be for us to be able to tell. And I did. I was very lucky. My body took to the chemos that they gave. My, hair has grown back. My spirit was pretty much high of the things I remembered. My family bonded with my friends and my colleagues. I had clients, Holly, who literally held up 3 or 4 months of time while I was stopping working for a while. They literally put a stop, and these are public companies. They stopped for a moment and they said, let's rally behind you and we'll be here for you when you come back. And they were, whether it was companies like Facebook or companies like Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf or Cathay Bank or smaller companies, the Marcus Buckingham Company, I was so blessed to know that when I was ready, there would be a place for me to come back. And knowing that gave me hope on that very first coaching call I had with a client. Gave me hope that I'd be able to see me again, that I'd emerge from this, not as a sick person, by the way, not as a cancer survivor, but as a fighter. And I, as well as with everything else, I think in life, we have to choose what are the things that we're going to fight for, which are the very most important things to us. Can I tell you a story?
Of course, because I'm sitting here just going, I don't want this to end. Please keep going.
I'll tell you a closing kind of story because
I love this.
I realized this a couple of weeks ago. I was actually being interviewed by somebody else, and they asked me a great question. They said, when did you first realize, that you had sort of this resilience bone, this tenacity in your soul? And it took me a while And maybe because I was going to see the show Chorus Line at the Hollywood Bowl this last weekend. And this story ends with that show. But in 1979, that long ago, I was a senior in high school and I was a singer. And it was finally my year to be the star in the musical, which was going to be Hello, Dolly. And it was chosen for me and 3 other people who were seniors, but we were singers, so that we could star in this particular musical. And we had a very famous musical director and cast director. It happened to have been at Beverly Hills High School. And it was sort of a big deal, this musical. And a week before auditions, I had to have a tonsillectomy.
What?
And I had my tonsillectomy, and I was sure that wouldn't cause any problem because they had heard me sing for 4 years or 3 years, and we knew they picked this show for me. And yes, I couldn't audition, but I certainly was going to be fine 3 months later to sing in the song. Long story short, I didn't audition, and I actually didn't get cast in any role. I wasn't even in the chorus, which I had been from a freshman on. I had nothing, 0, zip. I couldn't believe it. The call list went up, and I wasn't anywhere on it, not as an understudy, nothing. And I was devastated. I was devastated. And I went to this director, his name was John Ingalls, and I went to Mr. Ingalls and I said, how is it possible? And he said, how would you think we could take sort of this chance? This is a production for a lot of people. And everyone sort of deserves to be in it. And I was heartbroken. And he said, but we're not telling you can't be part of the show, Eileen. And I said, well, yes, you did. I wasn't on the call list. Yes. Let's be clear on this.
My name is not there.
Hello.
Yeah.
And he said to me, why don't we need in this particular show someone who understands the dynamics of the show. Why don't you be prop mistress? And I thought, what?
No, don't. I'm sorry. I can picture your face.
I just looked at her. I didn't know what he said. I was numb. It was ringing in my ears because I truly thought he was going to say, why don't you, get ready and we'll put you in the show. And he said, you'll be in every scene. You'll be responsible for how it looks and how it feels. You just won't have any place in terms of how it's heard. But you can construct, and Holly, I say this in all honesty, you can be the architect of how we can create the scenes by the props that you use. And you'll feel very much part of it. And I immediately declined. And I came back the next day and I realized that in the end, it was being part of this cast. It was putting on this production that really was what meant the most to me. And I did. I became prop mistress it was really prop master, but we changed the name.
Of course you did.
But it was, the prop queen.
Yes.
And I was so proud to put on this show. Meanwhile, after the show, it was the senior programs where you did your final senior piece. And I, in fact, did Chorus Line with a couple of other friends, all of whom had just starred in Hello, Dolly. And I did Chorus Line. And, my Mr. Ingalls walked up to me and he said, I don't think you could have done it that well had you not just gone through this. And I promise you, Eileen, that for the rest of your life, you will remember to think that the purpose is more important than what you presently see. The purpose is that you wanted to put on a great show. That was more important than you being seen in front of the curtain. It was that the show would go on and you learned how to be behind the curtain and still make a success.
Wow.
I think that's the company I built. I should have called it Ingalls. But I think...
well, we could still do another one. You're always starting businesses. That's what I love about you. It's like, wow.
I think that's what we have to learn, Holly, is that, it wasn't having lymphoma. And I don't think I got lymphoma so that I could go out and preach about, being a cancer fighter. I think things happen and how we react to them, where we find where that we can align or find the purpose in who we are and then fit in how we react is what makes life so dynamic, so interesting, and allows us to be there for one another. And as a leader, as a woman, as a mom, as a friend, as a daughter, as a business owner, I continue to choose to see what's in front of me and then where is it and how is it that I can add value.
Wow.
And thankfully, I have found you and have been able to see, I'm looking at your picture, and see just this brilliance and beauty and the way that you bring the same kinds of things out in others. You're inspirational. And I can't tell you how lucky I feel to have you in my life as a soul sister and as an incredible, incredible friend.
And you were trying to end by getting me emotional because, you, my friend, well, thank you. And this is the celebration of you because it started off with this is what you do for people. You see their brilliance and you bring it. And what I want the world to know is it doesn't happen because life has been given to you on a silver platter and everything is perfect. You just have faced one of the the 98 and 2% sums it up right there. You chose the 2%, Eileen, with an amazing support system that stepped up. That story, though, going back to high school, it's funny. I was just going to ask you, and I think you kind of just said it, but I'd love it to hear it one more way or one more version. If you were to go back to your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self based on the life you've had?
Slow down, you move too fast.
Keep
Gotta
singing.
make the moment last, just kicking down the cobblestones, looking for love and feel the groovy. I think that would be it, my friend. It's just, I don't think I would say too much to myself because I'd want myself to stay hopeful and pure and naive and excited. The only thing would be to just take it in, enjoy the moments. But for the most part, I don't think when I look back at life, there's really anything that I would have wanted to be warned against or more prepared for. I think the journey has been what's been the most, it's that part that you look at when you are in some kind of situation where you have to look at life. It's the journey. And I'm just 25, 54. I'm so happy to still be on this journey.
And it's the journey. I love it. And you can hear it. You can just see it I can hear it in your voice and it's just oozing out of you. It is pure joy and it's the journey. And maybe that's the lesson learned. Embrace the journey. Step into it. Sometimes the best way to handle difficult situations is to move through them versus trying to avoid them. And I think that is the wisdom, the grace, and the lessons learned. And I love you. I thank you. You and Dawn, I just want to make sure to remind people because, marriage is not easy, but when you commit and you commit to your family and your marriage and you commit to everything you're doing, magical and amazing things can happen. And one of the things that was never announced, but what I learned from you during your journey that I don't know that I can say this without getting a little emotional is, not just the grace in which you handled everything and you had your rough moments. It's not like, we just live in this Pollyanna world, right? But you kept strong and you faced it. And I watched you being at your house and having pills thrown all over your bed and having to figure out of the zillion 50 pills, which ones do you take this hour and then in 2 hours and then having dry ice shots being delivered to you at your door that you had to shoot up and, all of these medicines. And it was the way you and Dawn did this together. And here's the part, and I'm not saying that everybody else, if you're faced with this right now, or you may be faced with this tomorrow, I'm not saying this is the way you have to do it, but I'll tell you, when I learned that Don, oh God, I can't say this, he spent almost every single night with you in that hotel, and he would get up and he would do his conference calls and he would drive home, right? And shower and go back. I mean, when you told me that, I was like, wow, that to me is the epitome of what we've been put here to do. And how are we loving the people that are in our life? I mean, you two are such an example, Eileen. So thank you.
You're so welcome. I love that you called it a hotel instead of hospital.
It was, but well, we all tried to send you toys and decorations. Then you're like, sweetie, I can't take that bunny. Even though it's so cute, I can't take it in the bubble with me.
You're 100% right. And, I'm lucky because I had a support system. What I would like to say to anyone who is out there, and I have said it in every speech that I've ever given before and after cancer, that it is up to us to reach out. Don't wait either to be asked by someone in need or to ask if it is you that is in need. Let's put that aside, jump in, send that card, send that bunny, make that call, send a donation, bring the dinner and don't ask any questions. If they don't eat it, they don't eat it, and ask for it. I asked for love, or I asked for a holding of a hand, or I asked for someone to find me some hypnosis tapes, or I asked for help. I asked my clients to be patient. I asked my friends to love me and to laugh with me and to go get wigs with me and tell me it was okay not to wear a wig. If we wait to be asked, or we wait to ask, then we're creating a space of doubt, of uncertainty, and of loneliness that just doesn't have to be there. Oh. So jump in, put your hand up, put your hand down, reach to somebody and let somebody reach up to you. And we'll find that together we can journey in a much healthier and much more beautiful way than feeling like we're alone.
I just love the ask. Don't wait to ask. Don't wait to be asked, right? Just do it. Reach out. Okay, if that's not the greatest gift you just gave all of us, I don't even want this to end. And I do have to say, there's going to be people, Eileen, you've changed lives. How can people learn more about you? How can they reach out to you? Can you please tell us what works best for you, my love?
Always. You can reach out to me in LinkedIn at Eileen, either Fracchia or Coskey Fracchia. I don't even know. elcaminogroup.com. Okay. You can call me. You can email me at Eileen Fracchia at elcaminogroup.com. You can call me at 310-536-1136. I am so here and happy to serve. So just ask.
Just ask. I think that is the quote for the day and the lesson we're all going to leave with. Just ask. And I can't thank you enough. I love you, my friend. I miss you. You truly continue to inspire me in ways you'll never even truly understand. So thank you for being my cheerleader, for being my balcony friend, and for being that for the world. I love you. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Oh. Thank you for joining me for another awesome celebration of you. If you were inspired by this story, please share it with your family and friends and hashtag Your Story Matters. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on iTunes. And absolutely, please come to my website, hollydowling.com. Leave a comment there too, and while you're there, pick up your free gift. Most importantly though, just remember that your life is a gift from God. What you do with it is your gift back.